What the f is natural wine? Natty wine, minimal intervention, biodynamic, organic. What's it all about? Natty unicorns, natty bangers. First things first, I've got to tell you about the Real Wine Fair. It's on the 28th of April here in London. It's a massive fair where there's going to be hundreds of growers, almost 1,000 wines to taste. It's the best place to go if you want to get a glass of wine in your hand and ask the person who made it, why does it taste like this? Anyone who goes to that fair will leave feeling energized and inspired. I'll put the details in the description, but it's like 25 quid to get in. It's a complete bargain. So to get myself pumped up for this video, I'm going to drink one of the most iconic natural wines of all time. This is Brouillet Huillon's Arbois Blanc. This is a Savagnin Chardonnay blend from the Jura. Let's give it again. Incredible. Wow, bit of wax in there. Me. This wine is absolutely electric. It's the only way I can describe it. This is like citrus mineral acid supercharged. It's just ridiculous. That makes me happy. Anyway, enough of this. So for a wine to be considered natural, it needs to come from vineyards where they don't use synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers. Organic or biodynamic farming. So without getting into too much detail, it's about viewing the vineyard as a whole ecosystem. So keeping lots of life there, lots of different plants, biodiversity, all that stuff, right? Hand harvested grapes, everything's on a smaller scale. It's not a big commercial winery making millions of bottles. We want the fermentation to start with the yeasts that live on the skins of the grapes and in the winery. So no packets of yeast used to start the fermentation. We want to be using neutral vessels. We don't want lots of new or toasty oak flavors in the wine. So the wine might receive a little bit of gentle fining or filtering just to get rid of some of the floaty bits. But we don't want to do that too much because that's going to take away some of the character of the wine. So most wines in the natural spectrum are going to be made with minimal fining and filtration. So some of them might be a bit cloudy or some of them might be completely clear, but it's basically trying not to strip all the character out of the wine. That's the focus. And most of the growers are going to add a little bit of sulfur dioxide at the end. Sulfur's a bit of a divisive topic. You don't need to worry about sulfur because you're probably consuming a shitload of it anyway. Like if you've ever had McDonald's chips or fizzy drinks, or most processed foods have a ton of sulfur. Even dried fruit has a lot of sulfur in it as well, just to keep it fresh. It's a natural substance that's very useful for protecting wine on its journey, and just adding a little bit is fine. But if you add loads, you take away a lot of the character of the wine, so using as little as possible is a good idea. When you're making millions of bottles of wine in a big commercial winery, everything has to be the same, everything's got to be mechanized. You find some of these big companies adding all sorts of to the wine. Packets of tannins, oak powder to give like an oaky flavor, adding colouring to make it more purple, packets of sugar, packets of yeast. Yeast's really important because the flavour of that yeast from that place has an effect on the wine. And in all of the best wines in the world, that sense of place in the glass is one of the most important things. It's about stories, people and places, and you've got to have that in the glass. The way I like to explain it to people is to use a scale. So at one end, you've got heavily industrialised wine made in a massive scale. Everything's mechanized, loads of additives, basically just an alcoholic liquid in a glass. And then at the other side, we've got a bucket of vinegar. It's just some grapes that have just started fermenting in a bucket and they've just turned to shit. But most of the best wines in the world are sort of down this end, in this area, not quite vinegar and not heavily industrialized, just towards the quality end. When I first started getting into natty wines, everyone was talking about the faults. There was loads of natty wine haters who were like, oh yeah, but all the natty wines are faulty. Natural wines taste vibrant, they taste alive, they taste clean. If your wine stinks of pig shit and is pure filth, you want to be sending it back to the shop or back to the sommelier, because that's not correct. All the best wines in the world are made in this way. Even wines that you think are like super classic. They really care about the farming, they're not adding stuff, they're not manipulating the wine too much. It's just very well-crafted wine that comes from great, healthy vineyards. Don't get hung up on the term natural too much. We're just drinking great wines made by real people on a small scale. It's very artisanal. Join us in my next video where we'll be drinking these essential natty wines, and you can find all of these growers at the Real Wine Fair in April. I'll see you in a bit.